Hey there, history buffs and gamers. Welcome back to Historically Gaming. I'm your host, the Fit Historian, and go ahead and grab your favorite mug because today we're diving into the incredible life of a woman you might not have heard of. But trust me, you're going to be so glad you did. We're talking about Marie Louise Bottineau Baldwin. Now that's a name that rolls off the tongue. But more importantly, it's the name of a true pioneer. Think about the late 19th and early 20th centuries in America. It was a time of huge changes, right? We had the tail end of the Wild West, the rise of industry, and two massive movements gaining steam: the fight for Native American rights and the push for women's suffrage. And guess what? Marie Louise was right there in the thick of it, straddling both worlds with incredible strength and intelligence. So who was this amazing woman? Well, let's rewind a bit. Marie Louise was born way back in 1863 in a place called Pembina, North Dakota. Now, Pembina is right up on the border with Canada, and Marie Louise had a really interesting background. She was Métis, which means she had both Indigenous and European heritage. Her family belonged to the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians. Her dad, Jean-Baptiste Bottineau, was a lawyer, and not just any lawyer. He was a fierce advocate for the Ojibwe Nation in both Minnesota and North Dakota. And get this, her grandfather, Pierre Bottineau, was a bit of a legend himself. He was an explorer, a fur trader, and even a diplomat. He was a real go-between for the Ojibwe and the French and Canadian settlers. So you can see where Marie Louise might have gotten her strong sense of justice and her ability to navigate different worlds. Growing up, Marie Louise was super proud of her mixed heritage. She even called herself French Indian or French Chippewa. She was fluent in English, French, and the Ojibwe language, Anishinaabe-Moen. Can you imagine being that good with languages? I took French in high school, and not to brag any, I've got some basic French. Her upbringing was a real mix of traditions, which probably gave her a unique perspective on the challenges faced by Indigenous communities. And with her father being a lawyer, so involved in fighting for his people, that definitely planted a seed in young Marie Louise's mind about the power of the law. Now let's talk about her education. Marie Louise started out in public schools in Minnesota, and then she went on to St. Joseph's Academy in St. Paul. She even spent some time up in Canada at St. John's Ladies College in Winnipeg. So she got a really well-rounded education, which was pretty impressive for the time, especially for a woman. After finishing her initial studies, she actually came back to Minneapolis and started working as a clerk in her father's law office. This gave her some serious first-hand experience with the legal world, especially when it came to cases involving the rights of the Ojibwe people. Then, in early 1890s, she and her father moved to Washington, D.C. to really focus on defending the treaty rights of the Turtle Mountain Chippewa Nation. This was a huge deal, and Marie Louise was right there working alongside her dad. But here's where her story takes a really inspiring turn. In 1912, at the age of 49, Marie Louise enrolled in the Washington College of Law. Now, this wasn't just any law school. It was actually the first law school in the U.S. founded by and for women. How cool is that? Marie Louise, showing incredible dedication, finished a 3-year program in just 2 years. And in 1914, she made history. Marie Louise Bottineau Baldwin became the first Native American student and the first woman of color to graduate from the Washington College of Law. Talk about breaking barriers. This was a monumental achievement, and it really set the stage for the next chapter of her life. So, after all that hard work and making history, what did Marie Louise do? Well, in 1904, even before she went to law school, President Theodore Roosevelt actually appointed her as a clerk in the Office of Indian Affairs, which later became the Bureau of Indian Affairs. This was a pretty significant position, and she was responsible for overseeing government contracts related to Native American reservations and even worked as an accountant. Interestingly, early on in her career, Marie Louise actually believed that assimilation into European American society was the way for Native Americans to survive. But as she got more involved in the women's suffrage movement and the Society of American Indians, her views started to change. She began to really emphasize the importance and value of traditional Native cultures. And this shift in perspective is so powerfully shown in a photo taken around 1911 for her government file. Instead of wearing the typical Western-style clothing, she chose to wear traditional Native dress and braid her hair. This was a really bold move, a radical act against the government's push for Native Americans to assimilate. And get this, while the journalists at the time made a big deal out of it, contrasting it with photos of her in modern dress, her choice actually went largely unremarked upon by her superiors. It's like she was quietly but firmly asserting her identity from within the system. Now working for the Office of Indian Affairs, while also being a member of groups that often criticize the government, that had to be a tricky balancing act. But Marie Louise navigated it with grace and determination. Speaking of the Society of American Indians, or the SAI, Marie Louise became an early and very active member after it was founded in 1911. This organization was the first major pan-Indian reform group in the US, and it was all about advocating for Native American rights and challenging those harmful stereotypes that were so prevalent at the time. Marie Louise quickly became a key spokesperson for Native women, and she gained national recognition for her powerful voice. She even served on the SAI's Executive Council and was elected treasurer in 1915. In 1914, she was part of a really important delegation that met with President Woodrow Wilson to challenge the government's control over many Native peoples. And after that meeting, she gave a powerful speech called "What an Indian Woman Has to Say for Her Race." But her activism didn't stop there. Marie Louise also became deeply involved in the women's suffrage movement in Washington, D.C. She marched in the historic 1913 suffrage parade organized by Alice Paul, walking alongside other female lawyers. I did a short History and Coffee episode discussing this historic march, so I'll go ahead and put a card up in the corner for anyone that wants to learn more. I will eventually do a longer video for it, and when I do, I'll try to link it in the description as well. And in 1914, she was among a group of key suffragists who met with President Wilson to push for his support of women's rights to vote. Marie Louise used her platform to educate people about the traditional political roles of women in Native American societies, pointing out that Native women were actually among the earliest supporters of suffrage and even had practices like the right of recall. While she was a strong advocate for women's suffrage, her main focus always remained on the rights of Native Americans. And sometimes she even faced exclusion or marginalization from white suffragists who unfortunately prioritized the concerns of white women. It just goes to show how complicated these movements could be. Marie Louise Bottineau Baldwin's life was truly remarkable. She broke so many barriers, like the first Native American woman to graduate from the Washington College of Law, the highest paid Indigenous woman in the Office of Indian Affairs at one point. She was a powerful voice for her people and a strong advocate for women's rights. After retiring from the Office of Indian Affairs in 1932, she eventually moved to Los Angeles, California, where she passed away in 1952 at the age of 88. She's buried in Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale. Her legacy continues to inspire. The student organization at the American University Washington College of Law, the very school she graduated from, actively raises funds for the Marie Bottineau Baldwin Scholarship, honoring her incredible achievement. And there's even a historical marker in Sacramento, California, recognizing her as a Métis attorney and Native American rights activist. Marie Louise Bottineau Baldwin's story is a powerful reminder of the interconnectedness of social justice movements and the importance of fighting for equality for all. She was a true trailblazer, a woman who used her education, her voice, and her unwavering spirit to advocate for a better world for Native Americans and for women. So, what do you guys think? Isn't Marie Louise Bottineau Baldwin an incredible figure? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Did you learn something new today? Let me know. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into fascinating historical figures and events. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Until next time, keep gaming and exploring history. Bye!